everyone. My name is Victoria Lyon, and I was asked to do a little Devo for today, and today is May 26th. And so I just wanted to talk about a few things that's been relevant to me um, really these past few months and half of the school year, as everything's been crazy with college and weddings and everything like that. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was being overwhelmed. And so I have a few verses for that, but I just kind of want to talk about how it's relevant for me right now. Um, I've went through a ton of stuff trying to get my school situated here, and um, as a lot of you know, the wedding stuff hasn't gone as planned, so we've had to push that back. But we went ahead and got married, and there's just a lot of decisions we've had to make within the past few months, and a lot of moving and trying to get everything situated. And so it's really easy to feel overwhelmed when everything is going on, and with everything that's been happening with coronavirus, of course, nothing has gone the way that we had planned and thought it would. And I'm sure a lot of you are feeling that right now. And so the first verse I have for that for being overwhelmed is John 16:33, and it says, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." So I think this is especially relevant for right now, um, as everything is kind of chaotic, especially when it first started with lockdowns and curfews, and um, it's scary to see people all over the world suffering, and there's really nothing you can do about it. You just have to do your part. And so I think the idea of peace is something that is greatly sought after right now. And um, God doesn't promise us, oh, a life without trouble if we follow Him. He just promises us that in Him we can find peace, and we can have comfort in the knowledge that this world is not all that there is. And so I really like that verse. And then I had a few more. Psalms 46:10 says, He says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." So I really like this one because of the whole "be still and know that I am God." Because when I think of being overwhelmed, I think of everything being so chaotic and so, one thing after another, that you can't even, concentrate. You can't even focus on what's really important. And so the whole "be still and know that I am God" idea is just, even in the middle of chaos, just sitting and realizing that God has this, and being still and taking comfort that you know who He is and He knows who you are. And so that's why I really like that verse. And then I have another one. Romans 15:13 says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." And so I really like this verse because the idea of, hope and joy and peace, and that God can give us those things if we just trust in Him, and we trust in the fact that He has a plan for our lives, and it might not be what we expect. And I can guarantee you it's not always going to be, sunshine and rainbows, and it's not always going to be fun. And sometimes it is going to be hard. And I just think that when you're feeling overwhelmed, um, it's really good to know that you can trust in God, and He will give you the things that you need. And it might not be exactly what you think you need in that moment, but it's something that most of the time, if you look back on it, it is what you actually need. And one of the things that I've always admired is that both my mom and Aaron, both of them live by this whole, God has this in his hands. If it's not supposed to happen, it's not going to happen. And if it's supposed to happen, he will find a way. And it's been that way through with wedding stuff and through just different things that have been happening to me and Aaron and my family. And a lot of times, like if something is about to happen, like with the wedding stuff, and we had this whole issue where we couldn't even get our marriage license for a while. And so he just had this thing where he sat down and he's like, I'm not going to worry about this, and I'm not going to feel overwhelmed, because God will find a way. If it's supposed to happen right now, he will find a way for it to happen. And if it's not supposed to happen, it's probably for a good reason. And so I just really admire that, because I do not always have that kind of mindset. In fact, most of the time I don't. So, I just think that that's really cool, because we can look back on that situation and, he was right. Even when it seemed impossible and we didn't think we were going to do what we wanted to do, or we didn't think we were going to get to a certain place in our lives, we still ended up getting there. It just wasn't the way that we thought, or the way we expected, or the way that maybe even we wanted. So I just think that that's really cool that they can do that and have that kind of mindset, because I struggle with that sometimes. And so another thing that I have been feeling is like a lot of anxiety towards, I love my church family and I love being in church. And so the whole idea of not being there has kind of made me a little bit anxious, because it's just church is kind of like my place to sort out how I'm feeling and reconnect with the people that I know love me and I know that they care about me even when stuff gets hard. And so for anxiety, I know that some of this has probably been touched over, and if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. It's just I'm talking about what's relevant to me right now. So Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And I've always liked this verse, because I am the type of person that gets just worked up, and I just like keep it inside, and I just let it simmer, even whether it's like worrying about something or I'm angry about something. And I just have trouble processing sometimes. And so I like the idea of being able to come to God with anything that I'm feeling, and for him to take that burden, and for me to feel lighter and be able to rest knowing that God has my back. And so I have another verse that says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." That's 1 Peter 5:7. And I really like this one too, because especially with everything going on right now, it's hard to take comfort in the fact that God cares for you, but you have to understand that he does, and you have to understand that everything that's going on is not because God is out for you or anything like that. It's just we are all part of a bigger plan, and our lives touch other lives whether we realize it or not. And so sometimes the bad thing we're going through is so we can tell other people that we do have a God that does help us through these situations. And maybe it's so we can touch other people's lives. And so it's important to keep that in mind with everything that's going on. And so I have just a few more verses and then I'll be done. So Philippians 4:7 says, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ." And so it's, to me, I don't know if it is to anybody else, but to me, it's kind of comforting to know that God's peace and just kind of the rest that you have in His peace is beyond anything we can understand, because I honestly, sometimes I don't understand how God can give me peace in a situation, and I find it more comforting that He comforts me in ways that I didn't even expect I could be comforted. So, I really like that verse. And then I had another one from Revelation 21, verse 4. And it says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." And so this is in the part of Revelation where it talks about when Jesus comes and we have a new kingdom, and it's that section of Revelation. And I just find a lot of people find Revelation intimidating, but a lot of times I find it comforting, because God is coming for us, and there won't be any more, sorrow or pain, and we will feel joy in knowing that this life is no longer our reality. We have a new life that is better for us, and a new life with God in heaven. So that verse especially gives me comfort. And I had one more that I didn't bookmark. It was 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. And it says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." And I hadn't really thought about this so much until I found this verse. And I just think this is really cool, because His grace is enough for us, even when we are overwhelmed and anxious, and even when we just decide that we don't want to trust God with this because it just seems too big to handle. His grace is sufficient for us. And I think it's really cool that His power is made perfect in weakness. And so the more weakness that we have, the more power that God has on us, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't really know how to word that the right way, but I do think it's really cool that God makes up for our weaknesses, and in His weakness we can find strength. In my weakness, I can find strength in Him, excuse me. And I just think that's really cool, and I hope everybody is finding ways to connect, and ways to not feel distant from each other and with God during this time. I know that's something that I struggle with a lot, and these are just some things that have been on my mind lately, and I've been feeling like super overwhelmed and anxious about the future, and about things that have already happened in the past, and just thought I would share with you some of my thoughts. So I hope you all are doing well, and just wanted to thank you all for your support as me and Aaron have tried to make this transition into marriage with everything going on, and trying to take care of his grandfather and figure out where exactly we want to be in life right now. And a lot of you have been super helpful and super supportive, and we just want to thank you for that, and that we tell you that we love you all. So thanks.